everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we're gonna dye some non-superwash yarn. Specifically, we're gonna dye a zebra non-superwash yarn. This yarn is 100% Peruvian Highland wool, and it is a zebra yarn because the 2-ply yarn has one ply that is a bare white color, and then the other ply is variegated black and white, with a couple sections of gray, giving us this stripy effect that we call a zebra yarn. I pre-soaked the yarn overnight in some plain tap water, and well, let's go check out our color palette for today. I asked my chat in a live stream for color suggestions, and a blue, green, and yellow came up. And since I've been playing with primary colors a lot lately, I wanted to pick non-primaries. And so I think the colorway I want today is going to involve Dhrama Acid Teal Green, Alpine Blue, which has more pigment and oomph to it than the swatch really indicates, and then a softer yellow. So I went for Duckling. Now, Duckling can strike a little bit quickly at times and leave some like speckles, almost like brown speckles behind. But since our yarn is non-superwash, I think that there's a good chance we can dissolve it and spread it out on the yarn itself. And so that is what we're going to try to do. Since I'm planning on hand painting with dry dye powders, I need a yarn mop because when I have dye powders, maybe not as much today, but we'll still have this on hand. When I'm dealing with dry dye powders, sometimes there's powder on your gloves, and rather than just rinsing it down the drain, I like to add it to some yarn. Now today I'm going to be working the colors through our yarn, so I'll have some liquid dye on my gloves, and so that I can wipe onto here, and then if we need to, we can always just add dye onto it in the end, and it'll be fine. But Hawthorn is 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polyamide, and I'm going to add a zip tie to it and quickly add it to a tub that had water and vinegar in it that I've used for multiple projects today. If you want to learn more about any of the yarn or tools and equipment that I use in my videos, I have links and affiliate links down in the video description. I am an affiliate with Knit Picks, so their yarn is all linked with affiliate links, but I also link to companies I don't get any commissions from, like Wool to Dye For, because we're using the main colorway today as one of their yarns. And then I also link to things like my steam pans and what have you. So this just needed a quick dunk. It's okay if there's dry patches. We're not going for all over color. And I'm going to set this nearby in an aluminum pan, and we'll come set up our dye bath for the zebra yarn, starting with no acid. I just removed the 200 grams of zebra yarn from the pre-soak, and I just wanted to show you that this doesn't look that clear anymore. I don't usually scour my yarn or wash it with soap in any kind of way. Maybe that would help things strike faster, I don't know, but I've had success with this particular colorway in the past, so I don't feel a need to do it. I just need to keep reminding myself, non-superwash, non-superwash, non-superwash. And that's because there's also a superwash version of this yarn. And now onto our yarn, I want to add 8 cups of water. Maybe we'll end up adding more, maybe not. Because I want basically there to be enough water so I can squish things. Now, to be fair to myself, when we add the dye powders in and start working it through, and I wipe my hands on my yarn mop that has acid in it, that means I could be introducing acid in here. I'm not worried about that because I'm probably not going to be adding enough of anything to create any issues. The main thing that I want to be able to do is spread the dyes all the way through the yarn. And since it's non-superwash, a little bit of acid being introduced in here isn't going to suddenly make the colors unable to spread through. But think about like when I do a lasagna technique and things, some colors sometimes strike really fast and others don't. But now I'm going to go put on my deluxe rubber respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves, and we're going to add dye. All right, for our colors today, we're going to
start with the, not necessarily the lightest actual color, but potentially the lightest actual color. And we're going to do the duckling first. Now, I can always edit any of these colors more, but I want to start with the yellow because right now I don't have any blue or teal on my hands, and that is good. Now, you may notice that the base here has a little bit of gray to it. Wool to Dyepot does have multiple versions of the zebra base, and this color is going through really easily, really well. It dissolved really well and gave me that soft yellow that I wanted. I have a feeling even if I had picked a bright yellow on this base, it would have felt a little bit soft, but actually that's perfect. Now, when I add our blue next to it, we will get some green in the overlap, which is fine. Now, I picked these colors without a specific inspiration per se for them. And the thing that is funny is that this realm of color, not this order, but this realm, is something that I'm interested in doing more in the near future because I was just in Yellowstone National Park and all of the like hot pools and things, the colors were so beautiful that I have a feeling I am about to do like a big Yellowstone inspiration collection almost, you know? Okay, this blue is beautiful. I definitely think I need more of it. This yarn mop is going to have so little color on it. But you know what? I'm glad that she's here because you never know what we're going to do, and then I can always save it and use it again for another project. Now, is it just me, or is this a little darker now than it was a moment ago? And I have a feeling it is not just me. There are colors, and mainly hyacinth, but I don't know if alpine blue is in that category, that when you first add them, look very pastel. And then over time, they become a little more saturated. So, I don't know if alpine blue is one of those. But what I'm trying to do, and see, I can lift the yarn in local spots to try to move that color through. Ooh, that is looking good. And I can scooch things down as I go to start working on the end. But yeah, everything is just the way that I want it to be. Now, I feel like a lot of times when I'm doing a color like this in a pan with 3 colors, I do this progression of least saturated color on one side, something in the middle, and then most saturated on the other. It definitely doesn't have to be that way, but my brain likes doing things that way. So I guess that's not a problem. This teal green is such a lovely color. It is quite saturated. Now, I'm not worried about anything felting right now because I'm pressing, but I'm not rubbing. And the way I have things scrunched in the pan, we're not necessarily going to have like the smoothest transition, but I mean, look at that. That's pretty good coverage. And it went way faster and easier than I expected. If this were, goodness, if this were a superwash yarn, I maybe would have needed to do more layers. But I love where this is right now. I love the little bit of green I have there at the interface and how that goes well with the teal. I am thrilled. So now we're going to add some acid. I'm going to do 1, 2. You can tell that color hasn't struck yet because when I added the acid on, it's rinsing the color away. 3, 4, 5 tablespoons of white vinegar. That's a lot for 8 cups of water, but I like the colors that I have and where things are. And so I don't want things to move too much. And in fact, after adding acid, I am going to sort of push things through, like working that acid through here. And you notice I started at the lightest end, moved towards the deepest. But now I'm actually going to let this sit on the countertop for a period of time. And I think the time is going to be 15 minutes.
Removing my mask. And the reason why I'm going to wait is that when we add dye onto yarn and it's not that hot, things stay put a little bit more where they are placed. What I have found is that once we take this over to the heat, even if I keep it level and so I don't shift any of the dyes as I move it over, what I have found is that when you add heat, that's when colors are likely to move. So if by sitting here at room temperature, if we get any of the color to strike, then that means that we are more likely to maintain this beauty as we move forward. Now, as for our yarn mop, she is pretty but very much unfinished. I'm gonna go ahead and steam set her for 30 minutes right now, and then either you won't see her again because I'll use her for another project I'm gonna work on today, or we may see her later, but at least if this color is set, then I know I can wash and dry and come back to it another day if I need to. So I'll see you when the timer goes off. This is so pretty, and I really hope that that little bit of green is gonna go through. But even after this time, like, the color is nowhere near setting, which is one of the big differences between superwash and non-superwash yarns. And again, as I pour just a little more vinegar on it, you could see that the color is like here, it is present, it is not set yet. But I think at this point what I'm gonna do is I am going to take it over to the stove very carefully, and I am going to put it on the stove and I'm gonna start heating it slowly. Knowing that the colors are gonna spread, that is what it is. It does need heat to set. I found that doing some cold process of superwash or non-superwash yarns like this outside takes way longer than the superwash counterparts, and sometimes there's a lot of dye left behind. But that's another video that's in progress. I don't know if that one has come out yet, and so yeah, but I will see you. I guess I'll go and I'll check in with you in about 30 minutes after adding heat, or sooner if I notice anything. It has been 30 minutes and the water level is looking a little bit low. It is still fine. I think a lot of the color is on the bottom now. Like, the color on the bottom is looking more saturated than the color on the top, which I don't really understand. I don't really know why that is, but I mean, it's still super, super pretty. There's definitely still color in the water, but when I move the yarn in the middle, it seems to be located mostly around the edge, so I think I can kind of help work that through a little bit. The yellows are looking fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the heat and I'm going to leave the yarn alone. I'm going to let it cool completely here in the pot, and then once it's completely cool, we'll remove it and wash it. But for sure, the bottom seems to has more color than the top. So it's so weird. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'll have to think about that. But anyway, I'll see you in a little bit. I'm getting ready to wash our yarn. And I'm a little nervous that we're still gonna have teal at the bottom. I don't know why there's so much, but you know what? I'm gonna stick this into the rinse water and we're gonna leave that dye behind because I'm hoping that that doesn't mean that this is gonna bleed. Now, I would expect there to be some teal in the water, because we still had teal there. But let's add some soap to avoid backstaining. And I wonder if it's about the heat. I mean, on this yarn, it's hard to tell because the zebra stripes make things darker. I'm holding the yellow out to not stain that portion. But it does seem, even with the color being really even on the yarn, it does seem like, oh my gosh, that's a lot coming out. It does seem like then the dye gets way more concentrated in some areas versus others, and I can't really explain why. Nor can I explain why so much color is coming out. That is just not typical with this teal, and especially because like I dye with this yarn, well, it's been a while, but is the blue coming out also? This is so weird to me. Now I do have a green dot on my hand, which is from earlier, not from now. Let's switch to some Synthropol. We'll add Synthropol. That was a lot, way more than I needed. I'm also adding some acid, because why not? I wonder if adding both Synthropol and acid is slightly counterintuitive. Because we want the Synthropol to bind up dye and then leave. But with this yarn also was very, very colorful. The water was colorful when things rinsed out, so I wonder if, like, this is a yarn where I really should have scoured it. And by scoured, I mean washed with soap in advance. And I don't remember if I showed that off on camera or if I just showed this on stream, because I started this project in a live stream. We still have a lot of soap. But the only times I've really noticed this like unevenness happening, and like the color, even though it was on the surface, it really sinking down and being mostly on the bottom. But something I observed with non-superwash yarn, that is not something that I have observed as much with superwash. Maybe because colors start striking as superwash a lot faster. All right, the color is getting lighter, which is good. That means that we're rinsing stuff out. Okay, let me fill this up. No, I think this colorway is stunning, so I'm very excited about that. All right. Oh, that is so much better. Okay, it just needed to be rinsed out. Now, I don't think that the adding vinegar did anything, but I think the Synthropol just helped bind up that dye and remove it. I'm going to give it one final rinse, then I'm going to pop the yarn into my spin dryer to spin out the extra liquid, and then I will hang it up to dry so we can see the finished yarn. This yarn is cool, but I have to say I am so perplexed by these, quote, hot spots of color, because they do seem like they can potentially coincide with where like the heat is coming in, but I don't know why. And the yarn is definitely not scorched. Like, there's nothing wrong with the yarn. It's just that there's these little sections that have so much more pigment than anything else. So there are a few things that I could think are going on here. I mean, I guess there's some in the more teal area. This does, like, there could have been a clump of dye that when I added and worked it through that didn't dissolve, and so then dissolved later, and then the color was concentrated there. But this doesn't stand with the way I see colors soften on superwash yarn. And furthermore, this is something I've seen on this exact yarn base before. Now, Rebecca, when you added acid in here, did I add it like across the middle and then work it through? Because maybe that's it. Maybe I added acid here and here, but I feel like I added it more places. I just don't think I see this level of contrast with superwash yarn, because even if the color is striking faster in this little area, that doesn't make sense that it would like pull color from all the surrounding areas, you know, because there's not that much water in there. So it's more likely something to do with the powder technique, but we are also observing it on the bottom of the pan. And so I don't know. I really don't know. All I know is that the yarn is still fun. That doesn't remove some of the funness of the yarn, but I definitely, and I wouldn't be able to go find it. If you find the video, let me know. I feel like I've experienced something like this before, maybe in a live stream. I've used a zebra base in live streams a number of times. So yeah, I guess I just don't know where the recollection came from, because this is not something I experienced with superwash yarn in the same way, because superwash yarn, the dyes strike faster where you put them. So I never really see something more pigmented on the bottom. The last thing I want to say before I go twist things up is I'm really glad we got some greens to stay in between that blue and yellow. That makes me really happy. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and can we just take a moment to reflect on how awesome these pops of black, the black and white barber pull sections are with our teal, blue, and yellow colorway. I love how soft the yellow ended up, and I don't know, the contrast with the black is just so pretty. I don't currently have any more of the non-superwash version of this yarn base in my collection, but I do have a lot more of the zebra in superwash varieties. And one thing I do think is fun though is that in the non-superwash yarns, especially in the worsted weight, there are versions of this yarn that come with different amounts of contrast. And by that I mean that some of them have a bare yarn color to start, and others have a bit of a deeper gray and a lower contrast between sort of the over-dyeable, easily over-dyeable color and the black that's in there. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. I love to play with color and yarn and explore different techniques, and sometimes there's things that happen that I can't explain, but the best way to try to understand things is to continue to try to play with color and yarn. And so if I have any recommendations, it is to play, see what happens, see what you like, see what you don't like, and try to tweak things from there. And that will give you, I guess, the best education that you can get when it comes to dyeing yarn. If you love the content over here, there are many ways you can support the channel. Subscribing is the biggest thing you can do, engaging with the videos, but you can also join to become a channel member and get a badge next to your name and the ability to use ChemKnits emotes. ChemKnits themed emotes, we've got me, my dog, do not touch tongs. We've got a lot of custom emotes there, and that is just another way you can help support things directly. But if you want some of the yarn I dye, I do have an Etsy shop, ChemKnits Creations, and you can find links to that down in the video description. Thank you so much for watching.